Over 300 megawatts installed in Q3, as we announced this morning. Going to be larger than non-residential this year, over a gigawatt for the first time. And there's actually so much to talk about in residential that we split it up into two panels. So tomorrow, we have a separate panel talking about everything residential finance. And today, we're going to cover pretty much everything else. Business models, customer acquisition, and anything else we can get to in these 45 minutes. And so with that, I want to let each of my panelists introduce themselves and a little bit about their company, just a brief 30-second intro, and then we'll dive in from there.
Great. Well, first, thank you for having us. And my name is Stephen Irvin, and my company is very new business model for solar, but it is a very old, tried and true business model in different industries. So it is Amicus Solar Cooperative. It's technically a purchasing cooperative or retail cooperative. Similar organizations you may have heard of that operate under this model for many years are Ace and True Value hardware stores. So this is where each of the hardware stores are independently owned and operated businesses, but are member owners of a larger cooperative corporation, Ace or True Value. And there's actually more than 250 very successful cooperatives that you've never heard of in industries all the way from furniture, carpeting, lumber, across the board in different services and industries. So we're excited to be here, and thank you for having us.
First, I got to ask, did you pick us because of our haircuts on the first 3 years?
No, just
It's not why I got chosen.
Yeah, I'll give you a break.
I shaved when I saw your pictures.
it's okay. I have enough hair for the whole panel.
My name is Rex Stepp. I work for Arizona Public Service. We're the largest utility in Arizona. I work on the side that develops programs. I've also done marketing for our renewable energy program and have managed our schools and government programs. I think today most of we're going to be talking about one of, at least from our perspective, a new program that we have in APS ownership of solar, as well as we have a lot of experience with installers throughout the years, and happy to have that discussion of what we've seen in the market.
Great.
Thank you. I'm Ken Schwartz. Welcome. Glad to be here. CFO of Sungevity, one of the largest residential rooftop solar companies in the United States and in Europe and Australia, with big focus on the consumer, which we haven't heard as much about in these conversations, and the platform that enables that. My background is from another industry that got deregulated years ago. I was with MCI when it grew from 100 million to 5 billion in 6 years, and went through the whole deregulation both in US and then went up to Canada and did competitive long distance in Canada.
Hugh Scott with NRG Home Solar. NRG Home Solar is part of NRG, largest independent power producer in the United States. Large energy retailer. We have 3 million retail energy customers, and a major player in the utility scale solar. NRG Home Solar is a very fast-growing residential rooftop solar company. At the end of this year, I expect we'll be certainly knocking the door of the top 5, and we have ambitions to be even further up the league tables in 2015.
Great. And so I want to actually start with you, Hugh, and talk about some of the changes in business models that we're seeing in the industry, and specifically vertical integration, meaning financing and installing solar. And so you actually have a unique perspective on this because you've been with NRG since before this transition that the company went through. So before you just had the network of installer partners and were financing the systems, then made a few acquisitions earlier this year, and are now doing both installing and using this partner network. Can you talk about what that transition has been like and what the effect of that has been and how you balance the two parts of the business?
Sure. Well, I mean, it was a very natural transition for us. I think that our ambition was to be as close to the customer as we could be. And I think we realized towards the end of last year that we could only really get so far in that relationship, owning just the finance piece. The transition was very natural, given that we had relationships with the companies that we ended up transacting with, and frankly, it took us further in that goal in establishing that intimate relationship with our customers.
Is it ever a problem that you're sometimes potentially competing directly with the partners that you're working with?
It hasn't been a problem. It certainly hasn't been a problem so far. Mm-hmm. I think that we have a level of transparency in our dealings with our partners, which sort of obviates the need for any kind of issues or concerns. As I say, it hasn't come up. That issue hasn't come up.
Right. Stephen, I wonder from the perspective of the local installers that are some of those partners, not just for NRG, but for other companies like Sunrun who are doing something similar. Has that been a concern expressed by those installers?
Absolutely, and those companies are actively searching out alternative financing options and partners to work with naturally because they are looking for a partner that isn't potentially a competitor.
And so Rex, I want to go back to what you started to mention, APS's new proposal for rooftop solar and how the utility is starting to actually get involved in owning solar, one of the first few to announce that. Can you talk a little bit more about what that proposal was and why APS wanted to do that, especially when you compare that to the alternative, which was a lower cost utility scale installation?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of background on this particular program. It was part of a 2009 rate case settlement, and part of that we had to kind of speed up our compliance to our renewable energy standard. So as part of that program, we were given the approval to own up to 200 megawatts of solar. So we had 150 that was in the ground, another 20 that was being built, and that last 30 is what we went to the commission for approval for. So when we went to the commission with that, we had a typical utility scale 20 megawatt program that we had proposed, but had also looked at what our customers were asking for and gave the commission another option for that, which was to do 20 megawatts of APS owned. Residential rooftop program, and that would roughly be in our service territory. Average system size is around 7 kW, so it would be roughly 3,000 systems. We put some parameters around that too, as these would be westward facing. So this is utility owned, so it's a supply side interconnection. We're the off taker of all of that energy, but we also wanted to put it on. Do a couple things with it. One is to do some more research on the technology side to see what happens when we put these systems on specific feeders that are closer to their capacity. So we identified quite a few feeders that we put these on. We also wanted to open up to customers that through the years in APS territory have been paying into the RES but had not been able to really take advantage of solar, just because of the business models that were out there for a large group of our customers. Were not able to afford it because they didn't have a high credit score, they didn't have cash on hand, they could be able to afford it. So we made part of that as well, it's kind of evolved over time, but more of a lower income or folks that would not be able to typically take advantage of that. So those were the two options. The residential rooftop program, we've never shied away from the fact that was a more expensive proposition, but there were some added benefits to it, both in the customer and the technology side, that we wanted to present to the commission. So it's still a proposal. We've had some iterations, actually, even just the past few days. We've made some changes to it. A letter actually went out today from one of our state advocacy groups in support of it, along with ARICIA, as long as some changes were made. So it's one that we've worked with the industry on to try to develop. Just the nuts and bolts of it, these would be systems facing west from 4 to 8 kW, and customers would get a $30 credit for allowing us to host that system on their rooftop. So it's just kind of a leasing payment for allowing us to host it.
Right. So yeah, as I mentioned, that was just the first of a few utility proposals we've seen, and we expect we're going to see more, at least proposals. Ken, I wonder if you could touch on, without getting into another debate about the ethics of utility owning solar in their own service territory. Do you think that there is a place for utility-owned rooftop residential solar, or potentially even an opportunity to work with existing residential companies?
Sungevity actually, in its last fundraising, E.ON, which is the largest utility in the world, participated in, and we're rolling out with E.ON right now in the Netherlands. So there's actually a very good model to work with utilities, and we'd be pleased to do that. I think that the issues that we have to think about long and hard, and we've heard some of these discussions today, is how do you structure these things that you're not using the monopolistic tendencies or anti-competitive practices or other information to prevent the solar industry from growing as well, and giving consumers the choice of different approaches. There's some consumers who want to do loans, for instance. Yes, we can do PPAs and leases, but in many cases, a loan is better for a consumer. So it's giving consumers choice, and I think we need to make sure that we have the structural separations and methods that we need to explore creatively that allow these things to work. We would love to work with utilities, and we're working with them in a variety of ways. And actually, with E.ON, we actually pre-designed 20,000 homes for them, and then worked with them with their electric bills to do a customized offering to their consumers. So those are the kinds of things that I see as a possibility.
Interesting. And then for the local installers, it would be local installers, at least in your proposal, to actually do the installations. I'm wondering, is that, for the installers, is that any different than working with a company like NRG? Does it make a difference to the installer, or is that just another opportunity for them?
Well, I'm not sure of the latest iterations or nuances of the energy lease program and who did what, but the companies in our group are trying to say, okay, how do we stay independently owned and operated, maintain control of our businesses, but get the benefit of the scale of the large companies? And that's why we created this co-op, is to do just that. And so we don't want to lose the benefits from handling the sales, the engineering, the procurement scope of work. We don't want to lose that. We want to keep growing our businesses and have those a part of it. If we're just turning wrenches for systems already sold and developed, then that's moving away from where we feel a lot of the value is that we want to move toward.
Mm-hmm. If I can maybe kind of just chime in there a little
Sure.
bit. I mean, I think that, I think that the way we look at it within NRG Home Solar is, we have some what we call kind of uncompetitive advantages. And I think one of them, when we're working with the small installers, and we do continue to work with them, we have levers that we have available to us that might not be available to some of the other players. For example, easy access to capital, which in the relationships that we have with some of our installers today, we're able to kind of create payment schedules that work to their advantage that they might not be able to get elsewhere. So there's kind of things that we can do creatively that kind of customize to the individual kind of installer's needs. And we're also able to offer them, if they're looking for regular installation work, as well as access to financial vehicles. We have certainly plenty of installations that we've originated, and we're working with installers to make that accessible to them.
Sure.
If I could add something on the APS program that was really important to us. I mean, and I assume this is probably the same for most utilities, that they're probably very proud of the relationships they have with their local communities and with their customers. We're an Arizona-based utility. We care about our 1.12 million customers very deeply, and we're very involved with them. We wanted this program to be something that that benefited Arizona too. I mean, we live there. I have 3 kids. They grow up there, and we want Arizona to benefit from this. So we really tried to work with local installation companies, and there's actually a group within Arizona of local installers that have been really excited about this. We actually talked to a ton of installers to try to get feedback on the kind of the design of how we should roll this program out as far as what are the important things on installations. How do we do the purchasing of the panels? So I think those types of relationships. You'd asked about is it any different? I think working with a utility directly, and if things like this increase where utilities are looking for their own systems in the future, then having those relationships with the utility, good working relationships is really, really important. And we don't install any of this. I mean, this is all, whether it's utility scale or residential, whatever. We use local installers to do that. So, and it's an expansion of the market for Arizona.
Yeah, I would add that I can't obviously speak to all the small installers out there, right? So in our group, we have 33 different companies. Each joined Amicus for a certain reason. They wanted to go after a certain scope of work and certain mission of their own businesses. But there are, thousands of installers in the U.S. that would gladly, be
right.
be
And
that type of
one of your
partner,
installers was one that we talked with. So, yeah.
Great. So I want to transition over to talking a little bit about customer acquisition, because a lot's been going on there as well. I want to start with Ken and talk a little bit about Sungevity. So Sungevity is known for selling everything on the phone and online. You don't have any people out in the field doing the sales, and you subcontract all the installation, which, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to mean that your marketing and advertising has to be effective enough to get good leads from customers who are responding to that, and that you can use to reach them by phone or online. So what I'm wondering is, what is your approach to that marketing and advertising?
The two most effective ways we have found, and we are not doing door-to-door canvassing, which I think has been very effective for some people. It's just that's not our model to date. But is strategic partnerships. We think we're the partner of choice with utilities, with retailers, and nonprofits. We work with Lowe's. We're the exclusive of Lowe's. We're exclusive of Sierra Club. So those affinity relationships where people can reach out and on the customer's time frame, meet with them over the phone, do screen sharing with them, talk them through in very educated conversations. I mean, our closes are not half hours. They take a while. We go through a lot of discussions. The consumers are very educated nowadays. It's amazing. It's interesting to watch that evolution. And then the other part is referrals. Referrals is the other phenomenal, that you want. And our platform technology we've used, our CMO came out of LinkedIn. He was a CMO there. We've done a lot of social media, a lot of things we can do on our phones. We can have people do referrals on their phones. They can watch their energy on their phones. They can look at their house with what panels would look like on their neighbors and pass it to their neighbors and get the quotes for them. So we've really tried to energize those. We do direct marketing. We do LinkedIn. We do advertising, Google ads like everybody else. But those are very expensive ways. And while you need that to get out there and make sure people know who you are, that's probably the most expensive. The best customers are the ones that are coming through strategic partners or referrals.
Yeah, that's definitely what we've seen from a lot of companies in the space, and a lot of the market leaders. But how challenging is it to compete with other installers, whether they're national or local, who are actually in the customer's home? Not just through
selling door-to-door. Do you like it when people knock on your door?
No, I was saying not just the ones who are coming door to door, but most other companies or many others would schedule an in-home meeting after an initial call.
We do. We actually complete the sale over the phone. I mean, we're doing screen sharing. We're showing them the designs. We're letting them choose different designs. We're showing them different ways of financing it. We like diversity of financing. Do you want to do a loan? Do you want to buy it? Or do you want to do a PPA or lease? Trying to provide people the options, not too many of options, of course, but we're really trying to provide them that, and people like that. They'd like to be able to do that collaboration. If you come to our center sometime, come over, listen to the people. You have Berkeley Haas grads on the phone who are there for a reason. They ride their bikes to work, and they want to be on the phones talking to these people.
Great.
We do both. I mean, we do online sales, and we do in face-to-face sales, the kitchen table sales we call them. And we view customers not every customer wants to be sold in person. Not every customer wants somebody in their home, and not every customer wants to be sold over the phone or online. And so we kind of bifurcate and think of one group of customers, as we call them, the Bill Walton generation, or the baby boomers, right? And they tend to not exclusively, tend to have a preference for that in-face conversation. It's really all about educating those customers. It's all about offering those customers a compelling savings offering that they can kind of easily understand and transact on. And then we have the millennials, or we call the Netflix generation. And that's all about online, and it's all about kind of the transaction online. It's all about managing their energy online. It's all about generating their own power. It's all about being independent from somebody else that's making them do something. And we can sell to those too. We have all the tools that we need now with the acquisition of Pure Energies earlier this year to be able to make those sales. So we don't see that everybody wants one or the other. I think it's important to be able to offer potential customers the type of transaction that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to hear you speak about the benefits of cross-selling solar with other products like electricity or any other home services. How important is that? How big of an opportunity is it? And what are the actual cost savings in terms of customer acquisition costs?
Well, I'm not sure that we look at it that way. I mean, I think that there's, we see as a huge, another, you can maybe call it uncompetitive advantage. But we have 3 million retail customers that are buying electricity from us today. Those are customers that we're able to sell solar to, in addition to other prospects. So, we have the ability to sell. Generators. We can sell, home energy management. We can sell, electric vehicle charging stations. So we already have a bundle of products that we can sell. And I think that at NRG, the way we look at it is it's all about, the customer rather than the product that we're trying to sell the customer. So it's kind of a customer-oriented view of the world rather than a product-oriented view.
Mm-hmm. So Stephen, how do the local smaller installers compete without having some of these resources that a national company might not have, especially in terms of customer acquisition?
Yeah, well, one thing we do as a group is, and again, it's only 33 companies, but we're spread out across from Hawaii to Maine. We actually have, there's about 48 different offices these companies operate out of in 28 different states. And so they're seeing a spectrum of what works well, and we come together and we have retreats twice a year where we share best practices about customer acquisition. So, for example, at one of our last retreats, I sent out a formula for, I'm a recovering CFO, a formula for exactly how to calculate a specific cost of acquiring customers. And everyone did that, and we all came together and shared exactly what it looked like across the board and honed in on the companies and what specifically they're doing, what worked well to get to that low cost of acquiring those customers. And
so what was the cost?
By far, it's what was the cost?
Yeah.
It was actually really low. It was one of our partners in Tucson, and I think naturally the consumer was really educated down there, already, and that helped a lot. But it was below 30 cents a watt, to acquire a customer. Now some markets where the consumer is not very educated, like in the Midwest, it was up close to $1 a watt.
Wow.
So very broad range of different cost per watt there. And I think what we found is referral programs, that personal connection through the referral programs works best. Our companies don't have the budgets to handle the cost of canvassing and the door-to-door, but our goal is to, hope that if a consumer will, look for another bid, that we have the SEO set up, SEM services set up where we can get that hit on our website and get in the door and offer something. Either that or even the referral programs that tend to work well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's tougher when you look at the big companies like Solar City and Vivint who are getting in there and closing the deal right away. In fact, I'm actually staying here in San Diego with a friend that lives up in Carlsbad in a really nice neighborhood, nice home. That night, or that day, Sunrun came, canvasser, and knocked on the door just yesterday.
Did you answer?
I wasn't there, But my friend's wife was there, answered the phone. They talked for a little bit. They had just bought the house, just moved in, so I didn't have time to talk more. But she was interested. She was like, "Oh, I'll just check it out more. And this sounds like a pretty easy thing. I'm busy. Maybe I'll do this." So.
There you go. Rex, I wonder, what have you observed from just watching the residential market unfold in the mature market of Arizona?
Yeah, it's been kind of a Wild West ride out there with over the past probably 5 years. I think we had as many as 300 and something installers one year, and then by the following year it was down to 100 and something. Every guy that had a pickup truck and a magnetic sign all of a sudden was a solar installer. And we had incentives that were $3 a watt, and things were really starting to take off. And we've seen it really consolidate. I actually pulled some numbers just for today. So this is a list of actually all the installers that we have in the APS territory. And this year it's been about 7,500 applications, but about 6,000 of those are from the top 10 installers. So it really has grouped up to a small group. One of the things that as the utility, we actually get asked a lot about solar installers. Who would you go with, or tell me about what it means to the size. All kinds of questions. We'll get those as the energy provider. So I think one of the things that has helped some companies really stand apart is just that educational aspect. And we see companies that are taking the time to talk to customers have, I think, a lot higher satisfaction right with those customers. But it also helps to set the expectations properly. And we know, because we're the ones who usually get the call when things don't go as expected. And we have to kind of explain how solar works, what it will do, what it won't do, and how billing and stuff works. So from a utility perspective, we're very appreciative when an installer takes the time to really explain and set proper expectations for a customer.
Great. So I want to go back to Ken, and so you mentioned earlier Sungevity is active in Australia and Europe as well. I'm wondering if, what have you learned from installing and selling solar in those other markets, either in terms of customer acquisition or just lowering costs in general, the operational costs?
Well, a couple observations. One is the local permitting is significantly different in those markets. We're doing an average installation in 30 days from the sale, as opposed to between 60 and 90, depending what location you are in the United States and what the local offices work with. Acquisition costs are very different as well. They're mature markets. People are aware you don't have it's the same level of education requirements there. People, you're not selling as much as you're taking orders and working with people in that regard. So our acquisition costs are sub 1,000 easily. Smaller systems in most of those markets because they have smaller houses and things like that. But we're also very excited about, as I said before, partnering with. Right now, we're partnering with E.ON. We're talking to some other strategic partners. But a utility partnership in a deregulated environment, which is somewhat different than some parts of the United States where you don't have the deregulated environment. Well, E.ON wants to hold on to its customers. It needs to put other tentacles into its customers and keep that relationship. And this is a vehicle for doing it. We have a platform that enables it to happen very easily and reach out and handle the customer experience all the way through. So that works out very well. And we always work with outside installers. We're asset light. We're not. We don't have our own crews. We monitor and manage it effectively, and we think we get the scale. But we work with local installers.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, can you talk about how you decide where to expand within the U.S.? You guys have expanded to a few new states this year. How easy is that to do with your model, especially?
Well,
and just in general?
we think that our model makes it easier to do the expansion because we're able to despite the big guys may not be in all the markets, there are local installers in almost all the markets. We're in the process of entering another market locally. We've got an installer lined up. We've gone through the certification process, and we're ready to go. And it happens fairly quickly. And then with our strategic partnerships, when we're able to go to a market, we've got Lowe's already. We've got Sierra Club already. We have people, so we can go in there and get leads fairly quickly and start working the referral process.
Mm-hmm. Hugh, can you talk about your experience, NRG's experience expanding into new markets, especially the big move from East Coast to the West Coast? How does that transition look?
I mean, it's fairly straightforward for us. We take the model that we have operated successfully and roll it out. I mean, the advantage that we have is we have some national relationships. So we have relationships with the NFL is a big relationship that we have at NRG. We also have other brand other partner relationships that we're leveraging. Home Depot is a name that that we've used before. So we have assets that we're able to take advantage of. But we also have as you were talking about earlier, we have kind of cross-selling. So we're able to sell to EVgo customers that are here in California. We have that available to us. So we're able to kind of exploit our national footprint. So when we kind of move to the West, it's not really kind of setting up shop and starting from scratch. We're really just kind of rolling in and continuing the machine.
I'm going to get to audience questions in just a second, but first I wanted to ask Rex about how we've talked about some net metering and fixed charge changes, which have happened in APS territory. How do those affect the installer landscape, and how different types of installers react to that, where they if that affects where they move to?
Yeah, I think, that's a multifaceted question there. Looking from maybe an installer perspective, I think it's making sure, again, it's that expectations and education portion of it. And it depends on if it's a residential or a commercial. Commercial has its own rate structures that are completely different than residential. But I think for the local installers or the residential installers, it's making sure that the customers have a good understanding of how the rates are going to work, what their bill is really going to look like. We get a lot of customers that they've gotten an explanation of net metering, meaning that they're not going to have any bill whatsoever from APS, and that's a hard conversation for us to have when we have a customer that has a certain expectation. I think just the ongoing changes that are going to inevitably happen with either rate structures or net metering, as we try to make sure that there's not a cost shift and that's fair to all customers. That's going to be a conversation that's ongoing for the next couple few years at least. So installers that are keeping up with that are talking to us about it and making sure that they understand what our position is, I think is really important.
Yeah, and we've certainly been having that conversation all day today.
Yeah.
So
and
with
we'll
that,
continue,
I want to open it up to audience questions. We have one over here.
Hi there. So, full disclosure, I'm a former Sungevity employee. I want to. Hi, Ken. So, I just want to set up Ken against Stephen for a second. Not in a match of wits or anything, but some of the things that work really well for companies that have a model like Sungevity are actually a detriment when it comes to operations. So, for instance, I've seen in many of the partner network companies, the customer acquisition strategies are awesome, but because you're operating nationally, now you have to keep track of 55 utilities, 2,000 AHJs, and all the requirements that are constantly changing. So that has ramifications all the way down the line. Now, Stephen, in terms of Amicus, you have all these companies operating independently all over the country, and everyone's responsible for their own little market dynamics. So I was wondering if both of you could speak to sort of, the operational strategies in terms of tracking, all those complexities in the constantly changing markets, and how, Ken, your model, and Stephen, how the model of Amicus sort of contrasts on those items.
Well, I think at the Amicus level, we don't have to track it, the differences. Each of they're independent companies, right? All we're trying to do is help support each other as independents, improve our own operational efficiencies, right? To lower our installation costs and streamline any which way we can. So it's probably overused, but it's the sharing of best practices. It's where we have meetings where we go and we have our meetings at the different member offices. For example, our next meeting is down in Phoenix, where we're going to be walking through exactly how our member down there stages their jobs, how they organize their crews, how many people they have on their crews, who does what on each crew, et cetera, to help really learn from each other and really get the benefits of being a part of a large organization without the cost. Amicus itself really has no operating costs at all, very, very minimal costs, except for my exorbitant salary. But obviously, that's a given. But that's the intention, right? Is the benefits of scale without the costs, and still able to remain in control of your own business and your own mission.
And Ken.
Yeah, I'll jump in. A couple observations. One is we've sort of are increasingly using what I'll call a regional service provider model, because there is some levels of scale that we think is important in terms of number of crews and everything else to be able to compete effectively with some of the other larger companies out there. But we also, it's important, because we're working with regional providers who have the local presence and knowledge, we actually have internally also built our company so that we have people who are specialists in our rebate and interconnection groups and everything else, who know the local markets, who work with Hillary, who's my regulatory person, to specifically hone in on those markets, so we have that knowledge and we make that available to our installers and share that knowledge. So I think it's important that, for any of the national companies, you have to also think locally, regionally, because that's where it's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Anyone else? I think over here.
Thank you. Question for Rex. You mentioned you had a list of installers. What do you feel is the optimum size of a shop in your marketplace? Is it 10 employees or 100 employees? Or what's sort of the critical mass where you have a good, viable company that's doing a great job?
Honestly, I'm not really sure exactly how to answer that question. I think there's so many variables that go with that. If you're vertically integrated, like with Solar City, Vivint, REC Sunrun, those are pretty big operations. We have a lot of local installers that may have 15, 20 employees that they're able to respond. I think the key is big enough to respond to customer issues, repair issues, or questions, so that the installer isn't, or the customer isn't left hanging, which is, honestly, one of our big concerns in the market is just the consumer protection side of it. What happens if these companies go out? So I don't know if there's a number. I'm sorry, but I would say the ones that we see that seem to be doing well, that aren't necessarily the vertically integrated, are maybe 20 employees, something like that.
All right, I want to end with one final question that I want each of you to answer. End with a classic ShaleCon question. 10 years from now, the panel's called Who Will Be Left Standing? So who will be left standing, without just saying the name of your own company? However you choose to interpret that question, so whether it's large installers versus small installers, or just installers in general who are good at X, Y, Z, who will be left standing?
I think Shale hit it the nail on the head when he had the chart up here, which was showing the growth rates of the large top installers, and then I believe it was 11% year-over-year growth of everyone else. I think there's going to be space for both. I think the consumer needs both, the independent, smaller installer and also the large, vertically integrated companies. There's Home Depot, there's Lowe's, and there's also the local hardware store. There's Starbucks, and then there's your favorite local coffee shop, right? I think consumer needs choice, and I think the market will be large enough to accommodate that. We're not going to grow at the same rate as they are, but a lot of the companies in our group are focused on EBITDA margins, not top line, right? Because that's really how they're going to generate the value of their own companies and what they're looking for. So.
Great.
I think in Arizona there will always be a good number of small to medium-sized companies. They've been there for decades. They'll continue to be there just because of the solar resource that we have. I think in my mind the thing that's a little more fuzzy is what happens on the solar financing side and how those companies either enter or exit the market. I would assume that there still will be some large players down the road in that, but for Arizona, I think probably the more sure bet is having some of those folks that have been around for decades already anyway.
Stick around for the financing discussion tomorrow.
All right.
I think the market's gone through an evolution, really focused on the equipment, the pricing, the panels, and everything else, to a financing, which has been sort of predominant the last couple of years, and I think it really is going to be the consumer. And it's the technology and platforms and being able to do partnerships and enabling the consumers, offering them choices. I think that those are the companies that are going to be left standing at the end. And we're, 0.5% of the market right now, so we got a long way to go to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's, 10 years?
Yeah.
10 years is a long time, right? I think there'll be consolidation. I think the market will continue to consolidate, and I think you'll see it consolidate towards people know how to, acquire customers cost effectively. I think scale certainly is a major variable in kind of managing cost, and I think you'll see that to come through. So I think there'll be fewer bigger players.
Great. Well, we are out of time. We're going to head into a break and then come back to talk about small commercial. So thank you to my panelists.